So I think you do have to figure out what it is that's connection point to you. I started at Barge as an intern. Part of it was I wasn't convinced that engineering was for me. Like I knew I liked math and science, but I wasn't sure exactly what it meant to be an engineer. And I would say even like my first few years out of school, I really kind of had to think like, is this the right path for me? Yes, it was. And I eventually went back and got my master's, but I didn't go straight to get my master's because like there's a chance that I like might go and like invest all this time and money to do this. And then I get out into the real world and get a job, and I'm like, oh, that's not great. And that's not what happened. But I think you do have to give yourself some time to try it out. And that's what I do see now. I think sometimes in younger generations, like, well, I got to know exactly my life plan, like from the get-go. You kind of got to go with the flow sometimes and be a little flexible. Maybe say yes to something that doesn't seem like it would be exact fit because you never know.
Today's guest is a visionary leader in engineering, innovation, and organizational growth, Carrie Stokes. Carrie is the CEO and president of Barge Design Solutions, where she leads with purpose, passion, and a commitment to empowering people and transforming communities. With nearly 3 decades of leadership experience, she has built a career defined by collaboration, innovation, and growth that uplifts employees, strengthens client relationships, and enhances communities. Carrie began her career at Barge as a student intern and steadily rose through key leadership roles, including serving as the firm's first chief of staff. She has led Barge's largest division, played a pivotal role in shaping its 5-year strategic growth plan, and has served on the board of directors since 2015. In 2025, she reached a historic milestone, becoming the first woman to lead Barge in its 70-year history. Boss lady.
Yeah.
Through her leadership, Carrie continues to prove that when innovation meets integrity and people come first, lasting impact follows. Before we dive in, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the Matthews Mentality Podcast. Carrie, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
So one of the things we were just talking about offline, but I wanted to roll right into it. So you've been at Barge over 20 years, right?
You're kind. Yes, almost 30.
There you go. I knew that, but I just, So starting as an intern.
Yes.
All right. It's not just my opinion. There are studies. You'd love it when people say studies show, because studies show whatever I want them to show. But no, studies show that younger professionals today, they tend to kind of hop, skip, and jump.
Yeah.
Not companies a lot more than any other generation. Kind of, and yet now you're the CEO. You're a testament, or at least for you've been at one company your whole career.
I have.
All right. What advice would you have for young people, based on your experience about, working your way up the metaphorical corporate ladder as opposed to just always trying to kind of jump from one lily pad to the other?
I think a lot of it is about communication, and that's kind of the key to most things, right? And so it's sharing, kind of being your best advocate. So sharing, hey, I'd really like the opportunity to get exposure to this part of the business. I'd really like the opportunity to maybe have a stretch assignment. And so I think that's the part that's really key of kind of moving forward, moving up, getting opportunities. Because I mean, even now I know my position, like we're not mind readers, right? And so it's really helpful if someone shares what it is they're looking for. And I think that's what doesn't happen today sometimes. People don't want to have the hard conversation. And it's almost easier to leave the people you work with or your manager and go over here and have a new opportunity and kind of quote, start new. And I feel like the value of staying in places, you've built strong relationships, you get additional investment, you get to understand that business so you can really make even more of an impact rather than kind of going from place to place to place.
Is it safe to say, kind of a caveat to what you said, is you have to believe that the company sells the right service, sells the right product, is going in their direction that's positive?
Very much so, yeah. And that, I don't want to take that for granted. Like there needs to be an alignment with the culture, the purpose, the vision of the firm. And if that's not there, that is a reason to leave, right? I mean, that's not, we kind of joke like we all have our work wives or husbands. You spend so much time at work. You don't want to be spending time doing something that isn't aligned with your values and doesn't meet your passion.
No, but so one of the things in staying on that, because it's really interesting to me, is not assuming they know you want that opportunity, not assuming like, uh, I guess we could all assume people want to get promoted,
Mhm.
but you do have to be an advocate for yourself,
You
like you
do.
said.
You do. You really have to share, you know, ask for feedback, right?
Mhm.
Listen and then share what it is you're looking for. And it's for me, it goes beyond. So we'll have, um, maybe younger generation come in and say, okay, what should I be doing the first 30 days? What's the first 60 days? And then what's next? What's next? And I love that there's a plan. At the same time, it's not about, you know, the step, it's about the knowledge and the experience you gain. And so sometimes what I see is people are kind of just shooting past that to the title or the role, but not really kind of digging in and understanding, okay, what is it? What are the skills I need to be best suited to put myself in a position to achieve that role or to have that title, right? And so we have a lot of conversations at Barge about um, being very deliberate and thoughtful about taking on new tasks or new opportunities and what that really means, whether you're serving others or serving your clients. So, yeah, it's just kind of digging in to
Mhm.
seek to understand what it is you're really asking for. Because sometimes we have people who aspire to things and then they kind of get, oh, I realize that's what a project manager does. Oh, I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
Like, well,
Yeah.
that's
Some,
what they do.
yeah. So that's true. That is a little bit of, I don't know if it's a double-edged sword is a lot of times people think they want their promotion, but then, hey, there's actually oftentimes more responsibility in a different job description. And they're
Yes.
like, man, I liked what I had before, even if it meant a little less compensation, perhaps.
Very much so. And, I work in a very technical field, architecture and engineering. And so there are a lot of people who they want to be very focused on design. If you said, hey, could you be a people manager? That's not what they would want to do. And that's probably not a best fit. And so just thinking about kind of strengths, opportunities, skills that match the role. So it's more about kind of what you're learning and what you're gaining and how you're adding value than just kind of what's next on the ladder. And so um, we have a lot of conversations about that.
So let me ask you again, it's a really fascinating topic, this being an advocate and just making sure that the decision makers know that you
Mhm.
want that. And also to a degree, making sure you know you want
Right.
that. But if I had to guess, people maybe pull back on being an advocate because they don't want to come across as you guys have all heard the word like pushy. Oh, I
Right.
don't want to be pushy.
Right.
And again, you tell me if I'm
Uh-huh.
off. We don't have this
Yeah.
is especially I feel like women don't want to be pushy. Men might, and that's where again, you tell me
Yep.
men might be more comfortable being pushy than how do you kind of balance like being an advocate,
Mhm.
but also not, feeling that you are being too pushy.
Right. I mean, and that is a good question, and I think that is sometimes why people don't share is they don't want to be perceived as pushy. They don't want to be the problem child. Um, but that's the only way we'll really know. And so there is a way of expressing interest, seeking to understand, and how can I improve, right? So what are the skill sets I need to have the opportunity to do this? Not when am I going to get the chance to do that? Right. So I think it's very important in how it's phrased and how it's approached. But I do think just having that conversation and being open, and that's what we coach people, and we do coach people because it's their career, right? Make the most of your career, as you said. You're your biggest advocate, and that's you owe yourself to do that, right? We can kind of lay out options, but you know kind of your passions. We want to help you find your path, but we need some insight into what that is so we can help guide you in the right direction. Because we might kind of unknowingly push you, somewhere you don't want to go
Yeah.
because you are, a high performer. So, yeah, just really having the conversation, being open and honest, but in a thoughtful way, not what are you going to do for me? It's about how can I help you and how can I really bring value to the firm too, right? Think about it from that perspective is kind of what we talk about because we're all here as one team to bring, to work together and bring value.
Well, I want to talk about the team at Barge, but let's start. Give the audience just high level. Who is
Mhm.
Barge? You say I think architecture, engineering. Like, what
We
do you
are.
guys do? Where can you find the website? Just give a little high level so
Okay,
they can.
yeah. So Barge Design Solutions, we are a 70-year-old employee-owned professional design firm. So architects, engineers, planners, and so what I love about it is we're really helping design the places where people live, work, and play. And so we work on infrastructure projects, so roadways, clean water, buildings, hospitals, data centers, so all good things. We are about 650 team members right
Hmm.
now across 24 offices in the Southeast. Nashville is our headquarters, and we're proud to be here, and we're continuing to grow.
What was it like when you got the call to be the CEO? After close to 30 years of working your way up the corporate ladder, what was
Uh-huh.
that? What went through your mind? What was that feeling like?
Well, I experienced several emotions in about a 30-second span. So probably the first few seconds I was like, "Oh my gosh, is this real?" The kinda next several seconds was something that, yes, like, we had a very thoughtful succession plan. So, I had gone through a leadership, development class. We knew we were being assessed. I was selected. So, I wasn't surprised. I knew it was coming. And then kind of that third emotion, kind of a few seconds was like, "Oh, wow.
Mm.
This is real, and now I'm responsible, accountable for 650 employees and their families." And so that's when the weight kinda started to sink in, but
He-
overall, exciting.
Heavy is the head that wears the crown, right?
Yes, yes.
Any imposter syndrome where you're like, oh gosh, like,
Of course,
can I do this?
yeah, I mean, of
Yeah.
course. I mean, I have been at Barge for 30 years, so I think I can bring to the table an understanding of the business and how we work and the people. But then, yeah, you kind of wonder, like, you look around, well, could someone from the outside, they have a different perspective, or, you have to kind of squash those those thoughts though, because I do have trust in the team that selected me. And I don't believe they would have selected me if I wasn't the right person for the job at, with what we need right now. So I do believe like businesses go through cycles and they need different leaders at different times. And so that's what gives me a good feeling is I feel like I bring the skills needed for where Barge is today and going forward
Okay.
for the next several years.
One of the things you say, you talk about leading with purpose. Like, what does purpose mean to you? And maybe give us example, share a time when that purpose was really tested.
As a firm, there's been a business for 70 years. There have been a lot of challenges. I've been there not the whole time, obviously, but for a fair amount. And so for leaders, I think it's making sure um, you're focused on the people to have alignment with that purpose, right? So we want to unleash the potential of our people, our clients, and our communities to create a better life. That sounds great, and that is what we're aligned on, but dealing with people can sometimes that's the test, right? Because you have someone who's a really high performer, but they're not a match for our values, or just isn't the place for them. Or you have a really great person, everybody likes them, but they're not in the right role. It's can be easy sometimes as a leader to say yes. Yes, we're going to do that. Yes, but to say no, so to actually kind of stop doing a service, that's really hard. But that's if you just keep in mind, okay, we're all going in this direction. It's those kind of hard conversations, hard decisions, I think, around people where it really does test you,
Mm,
your fortitude to move
that's
forward,
tough.
right?
It's hard. Sometimes those conversations are hard because like you really need them to get better or to grow or develop, but that criticism, the
Hmm.
coaching, quote unquote,
Hmm.
but the criticism is going to sting them, and you want to,
Right.
it's like you don't want to hurt someone's feelings, but you're like, I need you to get better.
Right. And that's where you want people to be open, and really listen. And I've shared with other people, like, some of the kind of performance reviews or discussions that I've had that were the least satisfying were ones where people are like, "Oh, going well, going great, just keep doing that."
Hmm.
Well, nobody's perfect. There are all things that we could work on, we could receive feedback on, how can we step up? And so coaching is kind of an art though. It's something that not everybody's comfortable with, but it's really important.
What was the most surprising or maybe even humbling part about stepping in the CEO that you didn't anticipate?
I don't know if it was surprising, maybe I should have expected it, but in our kind of workplace, I had just so many people reach out within Barge from all levels, from like very new employees to senior leaders to say, how can I help you? How can I help you be successful? We're committed to the success at Barge. What do you need me to do? How can I step up? And that was something, again, given our culture, maybe I shouldn't have been surprised about. Um, but it was just really neat moments when that occurred.
I mean, you talk about people reaching out and how
Hmm.
cool that was and how neat it was and maybe surprising, right? And humbling. Regardless of who is picked to in a succession,
Yeah.
right? Whether internally, externally, there's going to be people who question, and I'm not going to ask. Do there people reach out and say, "Hey, I don't think you're going to do job," but specifically, um, anytime someone's chosen, there'll be doubters, but
Yep.
especially and I'm going to take a little leap here
Hmm.
in architecture and engineering. I say pretty male dominated.
It is.
Safe to say.
It is.
So I feel like that would add another layer of questioning, right? Did you ever get that?
There was one, I had one gentleman who,
Name, date of
yeah, no,
birth,
no, no,
social
no.
security number.
Shall not be named. And I think he
He who
meant
shall not
it.
be named.
Um, I think he
Voldemort.
meant it in a good way, but he did a little comparison to and he said, so and so, I have a big boy voice. Are you going to have a big girl voice? And you
Can I
know,
hear your big girl voice?
well, what
Okay,
I
it's like Zach's to
what I
start the
told
show.
him, and I'll to repeat is you will know where you stand with me. Like there will be no, you won't have to guess. You'll know. Um, but overall, I would say my experience has been, and I think I'm really fortunate in that there kind of haven't been those comparisons. There hasn't been a
That's nice.
feeling at Barge that I had to prove myself extra or do 5 times the work. But I do realize, and I think we were sharing a little bit earlier, I think I did kind of take that for granted. And so now, over the last year, having conversations and hearing other stories of female leaders, um, that's not always the case. There are other challenges that have presented to others that they have had to overcome, or just different working situations that
Hmm.
are no way ideal. And so I don't want to take it for granted. I want to help kind of move it forward and certainly be, very thoughtful at Barge that we're going to continue to support all of our employees, but make sure that females feel very comfortable and secure and, um, having conversations, asking questions, doing what they need to do to be successful and get the opportunities that they want in their career.
I think it's important for women, young and old, to
Mhm.
hear, because at least from my vantage point, you hear a lot of stories from women when given the opportunity to share of times that they felt they were treated differently and worse for being women.
Right.
I think it's great to hear stories of when over 30 years that didn't happen, and that because that might be like, hey, like there actually are a lot of good companies out there that
Right.
they don't really care if you're man, woman. They just get the job
No,
done.
just get the job done. You'll be rewarded for your hard work, your success, and not just what you do, but how you do it, right? How you go about getting things done is important for all of us.
Again, architecture, engineering, like I just think of dudes, right?
There are a lot. Yeah.
A lot of dudes. Well, dude, I mean, it's real estate. Trust me, a lot of dudes,
Yeah, you
a
get it.
lot of dudes. Um, by becoming CEO
Mhm.
of a very large, reputable company in a, again, historically male dominated field, uh, you open doors for women in a sense. Was that something that you ever like set out? Like, I want to be a trailblazer for women, or just all of a sudden you're like, oh, cool. I guess I did this thing.
I did not, yeah, I did not set out that way. Um, but along the way I have had help. So I have mentors, both male and female,
Hmm.
but several female who have reached out to say, hey, when I've taken on different roles in Barge, outside of Barge, that said, hey, if you ever need anything, just call me. Like, I'm happy to talk through. I mean, some of my, competitor firms, I would say, we have a great rapport. And so I do think it just does kind of bring it home. Like, people have been so supportive of me. I need to make sure I'm giving back just as much as I get. Right.
Yeah.
So, to your question, I think, yeah, I don't want to take for granted. I want to be very thoughtful, and I want to be that support and network for others to achieve whatever it is they want to.
Now, it's clear as day you've had a phenomenal experience at Barge over somewhere between 20 to 30-ish. No, but in general, it's just been great. Now, you said Barge is employee-owned. Share with the
Yes.
audience, what do you mean employee-owned?
Yes.
And then I want to get your thoughts on, in your opinion, your perspective, how did that change maybe how you
Mhm.
approach, working at Barge, and how you think it helps mobilize or motivate the people who do?
Yeah, I love to talk about this. So yeah, so Barge is employee owned and it is a very diverse ownership. So every single employee can buy stock, can be an owner. You don't have to be invited in, you don't have to be at a certain level. Literally, every single one, you can be there a few months and you can start buying stock. And so what that does is I think that drives us to a common purpose, right? And so there's a lot of alignment in how we're moving forward. Because we are employee owned, we have a lot of transparency in our strategy, in our operations, and our financials. And I think having that understanding of where we are as a firm, where we're going, and then seeing how you fit in. So we have a lot of conversations about we're going in this direction. This is how this part of the firm, this is how your role plays into what we're doing. And then certainly, there's the shared rewards. I mean, the profit that we generate, we pay taxes. We might retain some earnings for investment, but it goes back to our shareholders, which
But
are
via
our
distribution.
employees. Yes.
Hmm.
So, it is something that it motivates us in a certain way because we're working for each other and we're in this together. And so we talk about that a lot. So, if one group is up or down, right, we're in this together. And so that just kind of brings everybody along and there's just a certain kind of attitude I feel about it.
Tell us, a story or a project perhaps at Barge that maybe a combination of like magnitude of
Mhm.
importance and also I'd love a little craziness to
Yeah.
the story because it's good for the engagement. Like just that story where you're like, this was a huge project for us and it was a wild story and I can't wait to share
Yeah.
it with you.
Yeah. My favorite one, I have several of those, but my favorite project that I worked on, it was a restoration of a former copper mining site in East Tennessee. So kind of near the Ocoee River, near North Carolina, Georgia borders. And so it was basically 5,000 square miles that had been denuded. So kind of no vegetation due because the copper mining and how they used to roast the ore. I mean, they basically created sulfuric acid and that impacted all the vegetation. It was gone. We worked for our client that came on board to do the assessment of, hey, what is all the stuff that's out here, and then remediate to restore it to, usable property. The interesting thing is, so I worked on that project for almost 20 years. We ended up winning a national award for that because it was very impactful. But kind of two interesting facts. One of them, there was a point in time when, if you were an astronaut, which, so from space, you could see two man made things on Earth. One was the Great Wall of China, one was Copper Hill, Tennessee, because it was this big brown spot
Wow.
amongst all the other green. That's not the way it is today because we've cleaned it up. So
And
that's
you're
really
talking
cool.
about like a real astronaut, not the kind that
Yeah, yeah.
when someone does something stupid, I was like, oh, he's a
No,
real
no, 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 no.
astronaut,
I mean, like, they're in space. Yeah, they're looking down the Earth. They're like, "Oh, hey, yeah, I can see those." Um,
Should I be concerned? Because I live in Tennessee and
it's good now.
drink the
No, it's all
water.
good. It's all good.
Good. And
You know,
my skin's
uh,
itching right
but
now.
yeah, I was a pretty young engineer, was out on site with my boss, and I think my boss's boss. And so we're like walking around the site, don't really know quite what's
You're in
out there.
sandals.
I'm not in sandals, I am in boots, but I got a little curious and I got a little too close to the stream and I just sank down to my knees, which was embarrassing. And then, but I look around, well, they're laughing their heads off, like to the point they couldn't even help me. So I'm like trying to get myself out. I've lost my boots, but we didn't actually know like if there was a lot of contamination. So I got hosed off at the car wash by my boss.
Hose off at the car wash
Yeah.
by the boss.
Yeah. So it's like, we're in like a really small community. Didn't know what to do. He's like, well, there's a car wash down there. We'll just get all that mud off you. We'll just hose you off. And yeah.
Did he at least buy like the deluxe car wash, which comes with the wax job and all
No,
that?
it was like
Just
bare
the
bones
basic.
car wash. It was basic.
Sounds like a mean boss.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, I think at that point they continued to laugh and, I was mortified and Now it's a funny
That is a
story.
funny story. What is a common project that just your average everyday, they
Mhm.
never think about, but you work on and you're like, this impacts your life, and they would never think about it if they weren't in the industry?
Oh my gosh, there's so many. But even I mean, things like I'm looking out downtown, like roadway, like the traffic signals, parking lots, how you move through parking lots, right? Like there is thought giving to all of those things. And they're not always like the sexiest thing, but man, if they don't work well, like you're going to be grumbling about it in your car or, there is something to the quality of life. And I think that's why a lot of people get in kind of the design profession, right? They wanna make a difference. They get to it's cool to drive around. My son would get annoyed because 'cause he'd be like, "Oh, yeah, hey, I worked on that project, and I worked on that He was
He's
like,
like,
"I
I
know. You
don't
told me."
care.
"Yeah, I don't care," or "You told me 3 times." "Yes, I know, I know, I know. It started so yeah, but we love to talk about it because it's cool when you get to see like, "Hey, I designed that."
Did you always have a passion for engineering and architecture?
Passion, no. So I was probably the kid in high school. I was like, well, I really like math and science. And I did. I didn't know exactly what to do with it. My uncle is a petroleum engineer, and I didn't know exactly what that meant, but he would work out on the oil rigs and they would fish for sharks. And so I do remember one time he sent me and my sister like this set of shark teeth, and I'm like, well, that's it. I like math and science, and that seems pretty cool. I'm gonna be an engineer. And it's worked out so far, it's worked out pretty well.
I was gonna, and part of my question as follow up is, and it sounds like in your own way you were passionate, enthusiastic about, what the field you got
Mhm.
into, but again, getting back to maybe the newer generation professionals, they kind of been conditioned to think
Yep.
like, well, I need to choose my passion, and I mean, you hope that aligns with an
Mhm.
opportunity, but sometimes it's like, well, what if your passion or enthusiasm was just being great at what you
Yep.
did, regardless of the industry? And so, wanted to ask you kind of a philosophical question. Certainly, I'll answer part of it for you.
Yeah.
Is of course, if you really are enthusiastic about the industry or the product, it probably will make it easier. But do you think you could be successful in a job in a role in an industry if on the surface what they make or the service they provide
Mhm.
isn't something that you grew up like, oh, I'm going to dream of building parking lots and
Right.
water diversion, projects.
Um, I think so. I think everybody's gotta find their connection though, right? If you just found it completely boring, you didn't understand the why, you didn't think it was a need for it, that would be a drag, right? That would be hard to go in and every day and be happy and be fun to be around and be a part of the team. So I think you do have to figure out what it is that's connection point to you. And I'll say, I mean, so yeah, I started at Barge as an intern. Part of it was I wasn't convinced that engineering was for me. Like I knew I liked math and science, but I wasn't sure exactly what it meant to be an engineer. And I would say even like my first few years out of school, I really kind of had to think like, is this the right path for me? I mean, yes, it was, and I eventually went back and got my master's, but I didn't go straight to get my master's because like there's a chance that I like might go and like invest all this time and money to do this, and then I get out into the real world and get a job, and I'm like, oh, that's not great, and that's not what happened.
Mhm.
But I think you do have to give yourself some time to try it out and that's what I do see now, I think sometimes in younger generations, like, "Well, I gotta know exactly, my life plan, like, from the get-go." You kinda gotta go with the flow sometimes and be a little flexible. Um, Maybe say yes to something that doesn't seem like it would be exact fit because you never know, right? Just be
Mhm.
willing to try a little bit.
At Barge,
Mhm.
there's engineers,
Yes.
and on the other end of the human spectrum, I'm sure there's some creatives, right, and
Mhm.
everyone in between.
Yeah. And we drive each other crazy. No,
And they
just
drive
joking.
each other crazy. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, yeah. We got a couple of those. Um, no, but whether you're working with, managing, or leading, how do you how do you manage, lead, or even work with
Mhm.
totally different personality types, again, across a company?
Yes. Um That's an interesting challenge, but it's trying to kinda think
I'm
about
just asking you the question for me
yeah,
personally
no, no,
because I'm
no. Well,
struggling with
you have data-driven people,
yeah.
right? That's the thing, so it's like thinking about the audience, thinking about you we have, kind of at Barge, you can't just say something, you have to prove it, right? So there's a little bit of kind of data behind how we got here. And in some ways, I think that's good because articulating the why kind of builds consensus and gets everybody on board. And I don't think, it's not my style and it's not a lot of people's style to just say, well, we're doing this because I decided it was a good idea and we're going to do it. But that's one of the things that we actually spend a lot of time on that I think people would be surprised is just investing in how we communicate, what we're communicating, kind of what we're presenting to different audiences, and then actually having a lot of like development opportunities for our staff for them to communicate, right? I mean, it's good that as leaders that that's our approach, but if it kind of stops at a certain level, then it just stops, right?
Mhm.
And that's not a good thing. So there's a lot of time invested in
Bet.
communication
Yeah, and different styles
and
because
different
people
styles.
respond so differently.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
even here, like obviously on the sales side, their motivation is success or
Mhm.
wealth and different departments. Obviously, those are important, but it might be affirmation or
Yep.
feeling valued or feeling like they're contributing. And it really, from a leadership, it's a skill it, you just got to learn and
You
continue to
you
learn,
do.
especially for the
You
people who aren't wired like maybe you are.
Yeah, yeah, you very much you have to be intentional. You have to not take it for granted, and you also need to develop a working environment where people are open to other ideas, right? Because that's where I mean, at Barch we have design professionals, right?
Mhm.
We do have sales. I mean, we do business development to win work. We have our business services teams, and you have to kind of respect each other because we're not gonna be successful with it. Even though that might be the, "Well, I go off and I do this," that's really not the case.
Yeah, it was is there different love language. What's I was gonna say, what's the worst thing that, but what's the hardest thing that's ever happened to you? And then my follow up question is, how did you make it
Yeah.
through? How did you push through it? How did you overcome it?
The hardest thing, I would say, my deal breaker is respect. And so we actually have this exercise that we go through with all of our employees at Barge when they join the orientation, and it's a set of deal breaker cards, and it kind of walks you through and you select, okay, if this isn't present, in my working environment or my home life, um, this isn't the place for me. And for me, it's respect, and it's not like I demand respect. It is I want to be in a workplace where everybody is respectful of one another, bringing ideas to the table. That's my expectation. And so I would say probably the most challenging times in my career is when I felt that people were not showing up in a way that was respectful, whether it was to me, my colleague, my team members. And that's just something that's kind of my button, right?
Mm.
Like that's just kind of my button. And so my approach then is just how do I resolve that? How do I kind of elevate so it's um, highlighted in a respectful way that that's not how I want to be engaged with. That's not how I expect my team to be treated or engaged with. But those aren't easy moments, particularly like if they're clients. And we have had that situation where um, we get to choose who we work with. And
Mhm.
it's really important that we work with people, um, who are thoughtful about that. So,
What's the craziest thing that's ever happened? Where you're like, gosh, I did not know I was signing up for this. Like, whether it's part of the job description or not.
well, I told you my car wash
I mean,
story.
that's pretty.
I
That's pretty.
mean,
Yeah, that's pretty good one.
I don't know. Sometimes I get a little too much information, maybe on people's lives. Just through
Yeah.
the course of we are a very supportive bunch, and sometimes it's like I didn't need to know
Oh
all
yeah.
of
Yeah.
that.
They
I
give
did
you the
not need to know all of the background. I am here to help you
no
and support
boundaries.
you. Yeah. So sometimes, yeah, I think a little bit
Yeah,
beyond.
they start telling you
Yeah.
about their medical
Yeah.
problems or something. Um, what was it like being a working mom? You still are a working mom, yeah,
Yeah.
but like kid at home. But like, how do you balance those?
It took me a little bit to figure this out, but this is one thing I like to share. You do kind of figure out that some days it's not in balance, and that's okay. Some days you're going to be very much more involved in work. Some days you're going to
And
need to be involved more at home. And so to think that Like, I actually really don't like the phrase work-life balance.
You don't?
No. I think it's
Well,
like
we got a problem then.
I think
I'm just
it's
joking.
like work-life integration.
Yeah.
Like, because
Yeah.
I don't think like, there's this expectation that you can do it all, and I think if you just give yourself some grace, it's okay that maybe on this day, that has to be at 70%, because I gotta go
Yeah.
over here and do this. So
Yeah, we make a lot of jokes about work-life balance, especially as it relates to young professionals coming in. Like the last thing you should expect is work-life
right.
balance.
I mean, it just
But
answer
what?
the text when you need to, and,
Yeah,
you figure it out.
yeah,
But I think that's the big thing. Give yourself grace as a working parent. Um, be there when you can, figure out what the important things are, get them on your calendar. I mean, we were talking about that. Show up, I would say when you are there, be present. They do observe
mm,
like, well, I came to your game, but yeah, but you were on the phone the whole time,
yeah, yeah,
right? So make the most of the time you have.
yeah, and don't have 4 kids. No, but yeah, but we talk about work-life balance, and in the context of its frame, it's always in a 24-hour period, and that's how
Eh,
people are taught. And to your point,
yeah,
look, that's not.
that's not
There
how
are
to
days you're gonna spend a lot of time with your kids. You're like, I didn't work as much, and there are days you're like work a lot and
right.
spend time with kids. So what I try and reframe for people, and then again, half the time I'm talking to myself here, is like, look at work-life balance over a longer period of time. I don't know if that's a week, a month, a year, but like 24 hours, that's a pretty hard
You
measure to meet
right. I mean,
consistently.
you're kinda just setting yourselves up for failure,
Yeah,
quite honestly. Like,
yeah.
you'll never meet whatever the expectations are, and so just kind of look at it, it's a long game, right? Play the long game.
When you became the CEO, while always wanting to respect those who came before you, and the success and the direction
Mhm.
and everything in place, what was the biggest, like, okay, now I'm in charge? This is like, this is going to happen now. Like, what was the big initiative, the big project, the
Yeah,
big goal where you said it's carry time?
it's scary time. Well, so right now, it's actually really, exciting. One of the things is I mean, we at Barge, I feel like we've always it's just kind of in our DNA, curiosity, innovation, but, you're reading the news, you know what's going on. So we are really moving forward with an initiative just about our digital solutions strategy and how we support our teammates to do that, how we support our clients, and I say that without, all those words meaning a lot, but it's a huge investment, right? So it's
Mhm.
investment in hardware, software, training. It's something that we have to do. Maybe we're not going to be on the bleeding edge, but we don't want to be left behind. And so that's just something I'm really excited about. We're having a lot of conversations at work because we are using emerging technologies. We are using AI.
Ah, I knew it. I guess
Yeah,
you got to say
yeah, I
AI.
know, I know. I get
Yes.
kinda you kinda get tired of the
Yeah,
conversation, but that is the thing that kinda
it is.
keeps me up at night.
Yeah.
Like, I wanna make sure that we have the tools, the resources we need to continue to be competitive, right? I mean, we're not just handed projects, we have to
Mm.
go win
You
them.
got to win them.
And so, I know, there are days it's like, "Do I have to talk about AI?" No.
Got to check that box. Well, let's not assume.
Did somebody count how long it took to, like, how many minutes
No,
until
I kind of have a joke. It's like
Yeah, yeah.
you got to reference AI, but especially a public CEO, right?
Oh, yeah.
They don't. Their stock will dip.
Right.
No, but what do you mean? Let's assume. I mean, of course, I know what it means,
Yeah.
but let's say Zach doesn't.
Okay.
Digital solutions. What do dis- what do
Let's
digital
just say,
what
yeah,
do
Zach
digital
doesn't.
solutions mean for the
So,
layman over
yeah,
here?
so for a design firm, so it is a very data intensive effort. So we collect a lot of data, a lot of data on our sites. So it's really how do we better? I mean, this sounds a little boring, but how do you better manage that data? How do you have integrity of that data? And then we have all these different design softwares and systems. How do we get them integrated so we can most efficiently access good data and use it so the teams can be faster, they can be optimized, they can spend more time thinking about creative solutions for our clients. And so it's kind of that whole enterprise system, right? Data systems and then uses. And so that's what I mean by digital solutions. It's how we'll do our work, how our business services teams will do our work, and then the offerings we can provide our clients.
Give me one word to describe your mentality.
I would say resilient.
Resilient. That's a good one. What would you say was your motivation when you entered not just the workplace, Barge, right?
Hmm.
What was your motivation back then? Like, what really drove you?
Wow, I am on the couch now.
I hear you.
Okay. I would think it was really to learn to figure out how to be part of a team. And that sounds like a little, but everything we do kind of as engineer, it's all teamwork, right?
Mhm.
You've got to figure out how to be the best teammate. And then, I got into engineering because I wanted to make a difference. And so it's kind of all of those
Get
things,
it?
all those parts and pieces. Um, I'm
And you were broke, you know?
and I broke. Yeah, I mean, I need to make a decent living, right?
Most people I ask,
Had to
like,
pay my
most people
rent.
I ask,
Had to have
when you got,
gas,
yeah.
get
Most people
gas.
I ask, like, when you got in the business, like when I first started doing this podcast, like
I
first,
wanted to be CEO.
no,
No, I'm just,
first 5 or 10, like first 5
I
or 10,
did.
I was like, I'm gonna hit like some real deep, thoughtful questions. Like, what was your motivation when you got in your career? They're like, I was broke, dude. I
Yeah,
had to make money. I was like, okay, fair enough.
yeah. I don't know.
No, but
There's probably a better answer to that one, but
no,
I
you
don't know.
there every answer is great, but because this is the setup.
Okay,
All right, you ready? Boom.
okay. It's leading
I
to
say, okay, what was your motivation when you got in and
okay.
learning how to work in teams?
Hmm.
You love to make a difference by way of engineering and
Yes.
obviously making money. You've learned engineering,
Hmm.
clearly learned how to work with teams. You probably made a little money.
Yep.
What's your motivation today?
Now it's not about me; it's about others, and so it's about how to help others be their best, be
Yeah.
successful, be good team members, right? And so I do think as a leader, there is that point at which it flips, right? You're working to do better, to be successful, to move up. And then at some point you realize it's really about helping all of those around me.
And serving others.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's great. You go back in time 20, 30 years, talking to your 22-year-old self, the intern starting at Barge, what
Hmm.
advice would you give her?
I would tell the intern um, to have confidence in yourself, to, yeah, seek to understand, don't be afraid to ask questions, and have fun.
Yeah. Is that because you did those things or because you wish you did more of them?
Um, yes and no. I think I did a fair amount, but I wish I did a little bit more.
I hear you. Last question.
All right.
What do you want your legacy to be?
That's one of those questions I've been thinking about. So I've been in the role about 6 months. And I think you kind of go to, well, I'm going to be the X million in sales. I want to be, the firm wants to be. But if I really stop and think about it, I want it to be the firm where people want to work, where they want to stay for their whole careers. That's what I want. Because I think if it's a place where people want to work, we'll have this success, right? We'll be serving clients, we'll have grown, we'll have broadened our impact. All of those are wonderful things. But it's really about the people.
Last question now.
I thought that was the last question.
But your answer was so compelling. Your answer was so compelling, it just my
Okay.
brain launched into one. All right, starting a new segment.
Okay.
Start doing, stop doing, keep doing. Give the audience a start doing this, a stop doing this, and a keep doing this.
I would say start taking care of yourself if you're not. And even if you are a little bit, you're probably not doing it quite enough.
Mean that like a physical, mental thing?
Yeah, just like you've got to recharge, right? You can only be on for so long. And I think people think, well, I don't have time to do that. You're really helping your be a better self for others if you take care of yourself.
Yeah.
I didn't always realize that, right? And so I'd say start doing that. Stop um, beating yourself up or feeling bad because you didn't get to everything. And then what was the other one?
Keep doing.
Keep I would say just keep doing what you enjoy, what brings you joy. That whatever it is, make time for that.
That's awesome. For everyone listening, be sure to follow Carrie Stokes and Barge Design Solutions on LinkedIn and Instagram at Barge Design Solutions to keep up with their incredible work in engineering, leadership, and community impact. And if you found value in this episode, don't forget to follow me on X, Instagram, TikTok, and LinkedIn. Just search Kyle Matthews CEO. And catch more inspiring conversations on the Matthews Mentality podcast, wherever you listen. Carrie, I have laughed more in this episode. I don't even think most of it will make it to the final cut. I don't even think most of it. We're going to do an outtakes. I've laughed more in this episode than I have in all of them, which tells me I had a great time, and I hope you did too. Thank you so much for coming on.
I did. Thank you for having me.
Thanks, Carrie.